All right, everyone. Hey, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching at the moment. Welcome to this episode on database, where we talk about different AI data and everything in between. Between these two gentle data engineers, MJ, myself, and David over there. This time around, it's gonna be David showing a bunch of cool stuff within the Power Platform ecosystem. Okay, so over to you, David.
Hi MJ. I really like your avatar. You're finally able to grow that beard. And yeah, I'm trying to stick to the original me. I haven't got too creative as yet, but I saw this is like a fun way to explore some of the new features. Um, and in teams, but also I think like anything, this kind of all evolving. It's a very exciting time to to be exploring. There's so many
Yes.
different things, and but today specifically, we do want to look at stick with the Power Platform side of things, the AI Hub in there. You've tried Copilot Studio, and we had a brief chat about it, and I was kind of saying that I think AI Hub at the moment it's actually better. Copilot Studio and AI Hub at the moment is a very kind of user-friendly extract of that. It only allows for high-level customizations, and yeah, we'll explore a little bit. I'm wondering whether we actually switch back to to our
Yeah,
cameras.
I think let's do that.
One sec.
All right. Okay. Let's go back to showing our real selves. There you go. Here I am,
Yeah,
without the
cool.
beard,
Hey,
but with glasses this time around.
I think I'll start with this very basic Power Apps. It's a uh, yeah, it's just a chat thing. So it's a GPT assistant. How may I help you? The scenario here is that for a lot of the enterprise chatbots, the first thing it needs to do is to determine where to route the user inquiry. So behind this, there is a like a prompt model that just kind of categorize things, and I'll get into a bit more detail. But now, if I just say, "Hi, I want to follow up on my job application last week," um, and then I send it, it's just gonna respond with yeah, so he knows that it's HR related inquiry, and it's kind of
Mm,
trying to direct me to the HR team. So I haven't done anything after this point, and I've kind of experimented with the prompt a little bit as well. We'll get into that. So again, very basic. I think, however, compared to the previous, um, the Power Virtual Agent, this one is a lot easier to actually implement. I don't need to, because the
mm.
Power Virtual Agent, there's a lot of rules in there. So it's trying to do a bit of keyword match. Even with greeting stuff, it's like trying to understand, oh, is this a greeting? Does it match the keywords? So it doesn't really understand the context. It's like
Yeah,
trying to
I
do the
think
very
when
basic.
I did try Power Virtual Agent or Copilot Studio, and by the way, this whole Copilot naming convention is getting confusing as the days go by. Um, Yeah, the with Copilot Studio, what I noticed is that it's easy to get started if, let's say, it's about information retrieval. Like, let's say you just wanna scrape a website or a small PDF size and stuff like that. It's kind of like good with that, just kind of like creating that initial setup. And probably the advantage of Copilot Studio or Virtual Agent is that it's easy to deploy or publish across different medium besides like let's say you want to publish to teams or app Slack and stuff like that. That's kind of like what I'm seeing, but you're right, like kind of like crafting the full prompt and the full sequence and stuff, like it's a lot of kind of like rules to play around with. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think the Copilot Studio, when you actually create that Copilot, I'll actually try to show that a bit later. But
Yes.
first of all, I'll quickly show from the Power Automate view. So what sits behind this one is I've got a model that it was kind of embedded into a Power Automate flow. So there's actually three components in like to create this. There's like a Power Apps front end. There's a Power Automate flow, and then within the Power Automate flow, there is the actual model I'm trying to call.
So basically the Power Apps in this case is just pure front end, right? But all the logic and all the backend is happening in Power Automate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
So I'm in Power Automate now, and so my flow is, let's get to my flow. So I think, yeah, so this is the flow that I'm playing around with. Like a very high level intro for Power Automate. It kind of just utilize the Graph API within the Microsoft cloud platforms and just be able to actually connect to many different services and applications. So right now, every Power Automate Power Automate flow has got a trigger, and the trigger I'm using here is Power Apps trigger. So if I click a button in Power Apps, it can actually trigger something trigger the whole flow. And after that, I've got a create text with GPT using a prompt. This is where I actually call the AI model. This is just a standard AI model. I believe right now the standard one is the ChatGPT Turbo
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I just connected to a response as well. So when I call it, the function, this flow function, I'll actually get a response back into the Power Apps. That's how I'm able to actually, display it in the front end. So the first step, Power Apps, I'm just passing in an input, nothing to it. The second step, I'm actually using a model. So I'm using a prompt model. It's called user inquiry classifier. We'll get into in a bit. And the input for that model is the input from the previous step.
Yep.
And then the last step here is, I just call it category, and it just kind of responds to the text output from the model. Right. That's high
I think I'm
level.
already seeing the main difference of this use case versus the Copilot Studio. This one is really about kind of like creating sequence or like workflows that you want to customize. Like this has so much customization option out there versus the Copilot Studio. But with Copilot Studio, I think it's much more focused on like the concept of a chatbot, like how it should respond, right? Like it's kind of like training an agent, like what it needs to do. But then this one is
Yeah.
still more like app centric or like more like businessy type of like workflow centric.
Yeah, I think for me, this kind of architecture through flow is more practical. If I want to actually solve any business problems, I can see a pathway through flow, less so from just the chatbot, right?
Yes, I understand. Yep. Like let's say if you wanna do a not call, a database, or do some HTTP requests here and there, or like you want to do some if else logic here and there. Like you have that full kind of like customization capability that you can do in here without
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
going into coding, with JavaScript or like backend and stuff. Okay, yeah, now that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I'll come back to this screen a bit later. But before that, I'll just come back to this Power Apps. I just want to quickly show this button here. So this button is where it calls that flow. So first of all, I need to add the flow in. So I've added the input classification flow. just using the add flow. And then once it's been added into the app, I can then call it. So this is how the previous one are just kind of syntax stuff. So this line is how I call it. It's just the name of the flow and run, and it passed the parameter. So text input 1 is the control, like the text input box. I'm just getting the value out of that, and I'm using dot category because dot category is the actual output. So what I'm doing with here is I'm trying to store the output into a variable, and then I can display it in the green box above.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
just
so
reminded me that this kind of like workflow it reminds me of like Visual Basic back in the day. So like it's very friendly, like what you're doing here. It's yeah, like yeah, like setting up the logic with this function. Yeah, with set. So it's kind of like a mix of a Visual Basic and a macro type of thing. So yeah.
yeah. Well, like it's there's a lot of different tools on the market for like what you see is what you get type of thing, and but I think like Power Apps does a fairly good job in terms of balancing the complexity and the ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of feel like, even like, Excel. The second line here, I just want to quickly touch on as well, because I can also call that model directly from the app as well. So the user inquiry classifier is the prompt thing that I developed before. I can call it directly in Power Apps, and I can actually get the response that way as well. I'll get exactly the same response, but I thought I'd display the flow wrapper, because with flow, you can actually do more things. You can add more steps. So you can kind of simplify the app's front end by, adding more logic in the back. So if I explore the different actions, you can see that there's actually a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I can connect to SharePoint, Outlook. I can generate approvals. It's quite a useful one, etc. Or with the Copilot within Power Automate, I can also just say, hey, I want to add an action towards the end to send out an approval email to business managers.
Oh wow, yeah. That
Yeah, you
that
can
so it's
try to.
yeah, okay. It's gonna try to generate those actions for you.
Yeah, you will try to generate the actions, and then if I don't like it, I can undo it. But instead of so right now I can just describe what those actions
That's
needs to
awesome.
be,
Yeah.
and then without having to remember the exact name of the actions. Yeah. Well, interesting space. I think you'll be joining the Microsoft AI tool next
Yes.
week.
Yes. I'm also presenting about how this space can be used in enterprise setting, like what are the different things to consider, like private endpoints and stuff like that, which is very
Mm.
important. So yeah, I'm very excited because so many people will be in there and everyone's gonna be talking about all of this
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah. It will be a very, very different atmosphere as well. I'm very jealous. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the AI tool. But maybe next week you can tell us a bit more about
yeah,
the different topics, and the interesting new announcements from Microsoft.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, of course.
Okay, we'll probably end it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll
All right.
we'll end it there, and I guess thanks everyone for listening or watching, and we'll do more of these in the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah, looking forward to it.
keep in touch.